Hi everyone, a very good afternoon to all of you. It has indeed been a really interesting session for us to know the solutions that are available in the basin. Alright, so I'm Mansi, I represent Diageo here today, and Diageo globally is committed to the CEO water mandate. So we saw 100 basins there, so globally we are committed to 8 such water basins where we are working currently. And out of those 8 such water basins, 2 of the water basins are in India where we are working. One being the Ruparel River Basin in Alwar, Rajasthan, second being the Godavari River Basin in Maharashtra. Why Maharashtra? Because we are sitting at both ends of the Godavari River in Maharashtra. We have our plant in Nasik where the Godavari originates from, and we have our inner distillery in Nanded where Godavari leaves Maharashtra. So that's how the Godavari River becomes strategic for us. Right. But having said that, today it's not what Diageo is doing in the basin. Today what we want to talk about, what's happening in the basin. How are we collectively working together towards achieving a common aim, that is to improve the health of the basin, right? So let me bring your attention back to the minutes of the last meeting, physical meeting that all of us had an year back in the same place in Maharashtra, right? Wherein we had talked about all of us in our individual capacity are doing commendable work in the basin, be it individual corporates, like Diageo, GSK, we have HCL here, we have Marico here. Everybody is doing their commendable jobs. What's missing? There is a common link that's missing. There is a platform wherein how can we come together? What's the glue there? That we can come together on a common platform, work together, create that common narrative, create that common impact. Because we are creating individual impacts, very good impact in individual pockets. But is there a common platform that we can all converge on, come together, work together, maybe align ourselves with the vision of the government? How can we support them in achieving their vision to work on the basin, right? So a word that stuck in my mind was, this is sort of a thankless job that nobody wants to take up. That who would want to come up and create a platform wherein everybody can come together and work, right? So this is what happened. So during the last 8 to 9 months, I would say has been really exciting when it comes to us being the basin champion in the Godavari River Basin, stepping up, taking an initiative to launch the Godavari initiative. Basically a neutral platform for everybody to come together, a glue for everybody who's working in Godavari River Basin to come together to create that collective narrative that can be put out there. Right? We started our journey with us being the basin champions, thanks to all of you who has contributed a lot during our journey, and we have achieved some significant milestones here. During our journey, we were joined by GSK as the co-basin champions, so now we are co-basin champions with GSK in there, and as we move forward, we look forward to more of you come on board and work with us in the area. So yeah, without delaying it much, so Mansi is now going to hand over to another Mansi who's looking after TGI. So now Mansi presenting TGI to all of you.
Thank you so much, Mansi, for setting the context. And definitely I'll take it over, but I have others starting with bank, and then we'll definitely include everything that TGI has done until now.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. I guess it's afternoon, right? So, yeah, first of all, let me thank WRC and iit-iit for, over the past 3 days, you guys have sort of elevated the spirit of water in India, and I think we all here in this room really understand, like Jason said, what is at stake. That is water. And I think that is what we are trying to do. That is what we are trying to work, to build, to unite, and to work towards building a resilient river or resilient river basin. And that is what one of the things that were in our minds when we were starting, when we were on our drawing boards, wanting to structure the Godavari initiative. It was like all of us in the room and all of us have very clear intent. There's no problem in terms of what we are, and those are well-intentioned things that we do, and they also the good results. Everything is well-intentioned, but at the same time, we felt that how we cut through the noise. I know what is a very complex issue, and that's what we're going to talk about. But at the same time, the solution also has to be that complex. We wanted to cut through the noise. We wanted to keep it simple. And that is where TGI comes in to walk the talk of collective action with all the stakeholders that are involved in the basin. So moving forward, it's like, this gamut of water in India, the water governance, which is taken up at different levels. You see central, state, district, there are overlapping jurisdiction, water resources, forest department, central water commission, and whatnot. But what we found that, okay, we want to cut through the noise. How we want to do this together with the stakeholders in a way that is sustainable, in a way that enhances longevity, in a way that works well for all the people who are involved, each of our stakeholders. And when we found out that if you are only focusing on industry, and it's not even, if I do a thought experiment, and if all the industries in the basin were water positive, as per stats, you might still have a basin which is not resilient. Because 73% of that is coming from agriculture. So until and unless a factory, until and unless a corporate is moving beyond their fences, it is not possible to work for a resilient basin. And that is where we are trying to work, and we are trying to bring in the government integration, which brings in sustainability, which brings in clarity, which brings in program convergence, which allows us to sort of leverage the might and power and the institutional, levers that are already there on the ground. And that is how we are leading the corporate operations to basin level impact, and there are enough studies to show you how collective action is better. I'll not get into that. But the point that I want to make is that all of us are working, and like Mansi mentioned, that all of us have different starting points. There are 150 plus organizations working on water, which are government authorities. There are hundreds of MNCs. There are thousands of MSMEs. Each of them having, and then there are NGOs who are trying to amplify the impact. All of you are doing such a tremendous work. And there is a different starting point. Who is talking about bringing that? And we just wanted to do something very simple. And yeah, in the hindsight, it feels like it was bold step at that point of time. That can we just have one single starting point? And that is what led us to structure what we call the Godavari initiative. And just to give you a context, how we came about to be, there's a video to give you a glimpse of the same. Sorry for the technical glitch. So, meanwhile, led us to, and what are the leaders and kind of support. And we are thankful, and that is the gratitude that we share in this journey of last 9 to 10 months. We have got so much encouragement from you guys. We have got so much support in terms of the work we do. And that is what sort of laid the foundation of what we have defined. And I think I'll hand the baton to Mansi to really elaborate on the same.
Thank you everyone for being here. Thanks, Badish. So what the TGI stands is a single point of contact for the entire river basin that we work on, which is collective action for the basin involving the stakeholders. We want to bring to your attention that it's collective action for the basin and not any particular stakeholder. So How is it done is through the government partnerships, because we all realize that the scale and the sustainability aspect is something that government partnerships will help us attain. Strategic alignment. We have seen since morning that there are a lot of solutions, but there needs to be a single string that binds us all. So strategic alignment, collaborative governance, multiple stakeholders, and the governing structure that we have needs a place for each and every stakeholder. So that's the collaborative governance that we have. Apart from the solutions, there need to be a focus on larger boardroom conversations, advocacy measures to get a macro level picture, while the projects on ground is where the heart is. So this is the overview of the Godavari initiative. Our approach in terms of what we adopted when we started is from the Clean Ganga mission, which is the largest program I think in the globe and also successful. So this is where we've adopted it from the National Mission for Clean Ganga, which has 5 pillars approach. Anything that we start needs a research base to identify and where to start our interventions. So all the scientific research that we did, from hotspot mapping to baselining, everybody talked about triangulation of data. That's the Gyan Godavari. From a solutions lens, Nirmal Avaral Arth. Each of it looks at either water quality, ecology, biodiversity. Arth Godavari is what we want to focus because we have to reduce the dependence on river basin. And that is where focus on skilling, reducing the dependence works. And Jan, our initiative at scale at TGI cannot be successful if the community is not involved. So having eco-conscious, environmentally conscious citizens and involving every stakeholder is what Jan Godavari focuses on. So government partnerships is how did each of these levers was adopted by TGI until now. We start with the government partnerships, and again want to highlight that from the water governance structure we realize that there needs to be a collaboration at all levels. Getting your attention, we had Mr. Raj Bhushan, who's the current MOS for Ministry of Jal Shakti. This is the TGI virtual room that was inaugurated by him. Mr. Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, currently the Minister of Culture, as well as he is the man who started the Clean Ganga mission. Looking at the TGI virtual gallery, representatives from the MOEF, and we have Mr. Mukesh Sinha, who is a guiding role. He heads the Central Water Commission. Again, the person who is responsible for every river in the country. Our Basin champion, Ms. Hina Nagarajan. And then if you look at the state and the district levels, Soil and Water Conservation Ministry, district collaborations with be it Ahilyanagar, Nashik, Nanded. So again, working at both levels of government is something that we focus on. Very, very proud to say that since we started 9 months ago, all the advocacy efforts that we've had, starting with our inauguration in August, moving towards consultations in each of these districts, at the national level, there is a government resolution that was passed by the Maharashtra government on 29th of April, which states collectivizing efforts for Namami Godavari. Now that is something that we want to just focus on, because it mentions that companies collectivizing efforts, CSR funds, sustainability funds, that need to come together. This is for the 4 districts. Again, this is an issue that was raised in the last session of the parliament. You have the Rajya Sabha question here as well. So government is also taking a note of it and wants a collective action approach for the Godavari Basin. Apart from the government, the next major stakeholder, on the same lines we have corporates. We had regional consultations wherein corporates at larger levels, national level players, companies who have manufacturing plant, service-based industry. But again, what we realized is that water stewardship has to be a part of the supply chain. The scope 2 and scope 3 emissions need to be covered. That is why we partnered with industry associations. MSMEs, Nashik is a global hub. There are more than 6,000 MSMEs there. So a program on water-wise, capacity building of these MSMEs need to happen. And it's not even at the MSME owner level. Capacity building at the shop floor level. people who work with water every day, because even if they move from one MSME to the other, the knowledge that they have is something that gets adopted everywhere. So focusing on water-wise. Moving beyond, the corporate partnerships, projects like everyone has said here is where the action is. Just wanting to highlight that apart from the solutions that were mentioned currently, we have an inclusive approach. So it's not, it goes beyond. Something that we include is grey water management, water budgeting, water literacy, looking at sustainable tourism, because Nashik is going to host Kumbh in the next 2 years. So looking at sustainable tourism is something that we also focus on. Gyan Godavari. We've looked at various projects that we've had, but when we want to look at a basin level picture, it's very important that we understand what is the impact being created with all the smaller projects that are happening. So TGI has made an impact aggregator dashboard.
It does, but it's connected.
So this is the impact aggregator dashboard that we have, which looks at a larger basin level picture. Like Joe mentioned, we're soon working together with iit-iit and would have these impacts, documented as per the circles that are identified in the basins as well. What we want to highlight is that this recognizes, the contribution that each of our EOI partners get. So be it whichever 9 districts that you're working under TGI, what is the work that is being done, and having scientific methodologies in calculations of impact so that standardization is maintained across the basin level. This is what the impact summary does. One thing that we've also gone beyond the projects is mapping government data, because government is also taking a lot of initiatives in each of these, 9 districts. So when we talk about river pollution, we always understand that water quality is something, how many STPs are there, what is under construction. So this, along with the quantity of how much water is being treated, is something that is mapped, which works with the government in terms of planning where further such infrastructure is required. Moving ahead, the Jan part, because community is at the heart of it. So what these circles currently is that we recently had a watershed yatra program, which was a Government of India Ministry of Rural Development initiative. The VR van spreading the message of watershed, the importance of conservation, moved across this, and these document the participation levels in the identified districts. Just taking one example of something that, wash infrastructure that is happening. So, what is the work in each of the, NGO partner is doing, probably who's funding it, recognizing the efforts of the funders, and then the kind of infrastructure that is created across the basin. So this is where the EOI partners of TGI provide data and the impact at a basin level gets documented. In addition to the impact aggregator dashboard, when we were starting our journey for TGI, we did have a scientific approach where 25-year analysis for the catchment that was identified under TGI, which is 55,000 square kilometer, indicators on groundwater, precipitation index, NDVI, NDWI, all the GIS analysis was done to identify 40 hotspots as per flood and drought-prone villages. And this helps us to go to funding agencies to plan strategic initiatives. Where do, which of these villages need what in terms of intervention. So that is where, and this was not limited to GIS analysis. A comprehensive 600 questionnaire data validation survey process was also done. So a baseline is also created because impact measurement can be done better. From project lens, we are making an NBS repository, which is on the lines of IUCN principles for the NBS solutions that are implemented. And from a tech integration, looking at climatic projections in terms of what is the degree change in terms of temperature that will happen. Like Jason mentioned, the cost of inaction will probably drive further interventions. I think we've talked what has happened in TGI, and I'll hand over to others in terms of what is coming up in the next year.
Thank you, Mansi. So I think what Mansi elaborated upon was the governance part of it, our integration with the government, that we move to the corporates, how we're working with the corporates at different level, with MSMEs, with the corporates like those who are in the room, then we, how the project-based partnerships are there, but then something that's really at the heart of any such initiative which is working at this scale is the people. I mean, if you see Swachh Bharat Mission, if you see any worker, if you want to work in India, and if you really want something to achieve success that it needs to have, especially for river basin, you need to have people. And for that, for people, a river in India is culture. A river in India is spiritual. A river in India is heritage. And that is why something like Simas Natsiskum, which might look a pretty much a fringe element from the water perspective of it, it holds a very much importance because you are getting 100+ million trillions who are connecting, who are converging at a point, and that is solely because of the Godavari. The power, I think we all have seen the power of that dip in the recently happened Prayagraj Kumbh. But why I'm making a point here? I'm making this point here because we need to understand that we need to make it the mass movement. I mean, there was a video in which MOS talks about, Minister of State talks about that we need to make it a mass movement. And the only way we can do it, the GR that talked about, the GR is actually sent from Maharashtra government to the central government for making TGI like a Namami Godavari. And then the central government has actually asked the state government to actually first demonstrate those efforts that they will do. And that is why there is an action plan which is in form of the GR government resolution, which talks about each one of you who are sitting in this room. It talks about corporates, it talks about NGOs, and that is why there is a need for collective action, and that is where TGI acts as an impact aggregator. For CSRBOX, which is hosting on Godavari, which is a national priority event from multiple perspectives and which brings people together. Happy to say that we are working with the operating agency, that is Nasik Municipal Corporation, and in order to actually converge those actions, not just for the Godavari, but also to make Kumbh more sustainable, more greener, and more, I think, something that actually invigorates people, not spiritually, but also towards the environment and towards the larger ecosystem in which they are going to be part of in the long run. Yeah, and how we are doing. So I think what we are trying to establish here is that water is a shared commodity, and it has meaning for everyone. For fishermen, it's livelihood. For industries out here, it's a raw material. For people, I just explained its culture, but it has meaning. And for everyone, it is a different meaning. And that is where those meaning and being it shared, it also leads to shared responsibility. And this is how we envision that when there is a meaning for all, there's also a place for all. And this is how we envision the Godavari initiatives governance structure where there's a place for all. No matter what is the potential, whether you are a basin champion or you're a seat sponsor just in implementing the project-based partnership, how we envision your support, because as a platform, one needs to be inclusive. As a platform who's working as impact aggregator, we cannot leave anyone out. So that is how we envision the governance structure of TGI, where domain catalysts like iit-iit can really aid how we are wanting to work this and amplify the efforts that we are making in the basin. And once this becomes, like you saw in the impact aggregator that we are building, once this becomes, we will be able to find out the gaps that are there. We'll be able to find out, okay, this is the area which is not being touched upon. We will be able to identify that this is where you need more funding, you need more investment. We can go not just to the corporates for more funding, but also draw the government's attention that this is not something that is being looked on. And that is how working with MSMEs, working with corporates, working with governments help us, and this is a structure perhaps. But what I really want you to go up, leave you, what are the key takeaways and what's in it for you? So those are the pointers that beat your priorities, beat government policies. What TGI is trying to do is what TGI is striving to do is to align those actions. When there is meaning for all, there's a place for all, and while there is a shared commodity like water, there's also a shared responsibility that all of us here inherit by being virtue, by being recipient, by being the beneficiary of something as basic as water. Unified data architecture through impact aggregation, I think Mansi already told that how we can actually aggregate that data and help those, that can enable those insights for us to make these things more seamless and better. Because we have been working and all, like I said, those well-intentioned measures, those well-intentioned efforts needs to be collectivized in order for us to see the larger picture at the basin level. Curation of locally, ecologically and culturally relevant solutions. What is working in Punjab might not work in Godavari, and that is the reality that we understand, and that is how I think all of us are pretty much aware. We need to understand the local ethos, local milieu, something like why it is happening, and I mean we could have stayed away and say no, we are only going to be this scientific organization working for the water, but until unless you get involved in something like you cannot be part of the community, you cannot be part of that larger narrative, and that is where TGI comes in, and on as acceleration through TGI fellows, not just driving it from the boardrooms conversation, not just driving it from the TGI secretariat, which is independent in nature, but also having people, the fellows on the ground who are not just working for the project implementation or the project partners and getting their projects seamlessly on the ground, but also working with the government authorities for the data integration for seamless, because we all know how important it is for all of us to get those permissions, to get those bureaucratic, I think the lady that was presenting mentioned how it is important to keep government in the loop, because only then we will be able to leverage there. And I think the response has been great, and I think being here and the part of this platform actually enables us to do more, and we would love all of you to be part of this journey that, like Mansi said, we would love all of you to really come together and let's build something, and let's build a resilient basin. Thank you, that's all.